Well, yes, here we are. It's time for Mr. Chris Robertshaw and Paul Moulton to have a good old chinwag. We've got a couple of items, actually, and it's nice to see you again. People actually stop me and say, when is the next episode? I can't believe it. You're getting that sort of infamy.
Well, don't rush off again so quickly this time.
By the way, 10 years ago, just so you know, you were busy doing the big debates around the Isle again, and it's fascinating. If you want to look back, it's exactly 10 years ago. So the ones I recorded with you in Peel will be coming out probably next month. But
and the sad truth in that is that what I was arguing about 10 years ago, I believe more passionately than ever now. So
things go round and round. Anyway, two subjects, but the first one you want to do about energy, and I know the MU are going ahead with their ideas on onshore wind farms and the prices getting better and all sorts of things, and you've got opinion about that?
Yeah.
You're for it, I guess.
Yes. Gosh, yes. I mean, despite the fact that I'm tarnished with the thought that how dare I be a modest investor in Crogga Gas, I still am passionately for renewables.
I'm glad you brought it up, because I mean the two seem to jar slightly, I suppose.
Well, they don't. No, they don't, and I'll try to explain that in a second, if I may. And I mean, I welcome MU's comments about onshore wind farms providing cost-effective electricity. But look, we're 3 years out from the last election, and we're 2 years away from the next one, and there are some big issues now that really need really serious public discussion and engagement. One is energy, and the other one we'll discuss later, I think, is the health issue, the healthcare issue, which is really serious. But so anyway, that's later. But as far as renewables are concerned, I'm totally for the development of renewables. What I think I'm anxious to say this morning is I'm really, really unnerved by the idea that we should produce renewables on the Isle of Man, but somehow then balance it off with an additional interconnector with the UK. And I think we have to just, if it's still a possibility, and I hope it's not, the interconnector, I want to see us drop that completely and say, no, we've got to find our own solutions to moving towards secure future energy supplies, but both in their renewable sense and indeed the cost. And when you consider now that I believe the UK's got pretty well nearly the most expensive electricity energy in the world, why on earth would we want to put a further interconnector? So and also they seem to be who am I to sort of judge on this, but they seem to be moving towards mishandling the balance of power sources in the UK, in the sense that my understanding is that 8 of the 9 nuclear power stations in the UK are destined or marked down for closure between now and 2028. So, and here's the problem, and it's a challenge for us as well. It's working out how we're going to get to a renewable future, and in the process of doing so, deal with the intermittent nature of some of the renewable sources of energy that exist.
Well, and besides tidal are fluctuating, aren't they? Because
no.
They can't be guaranteed. Wind doesn't always go, sun doesn't always shine, obviously. So the only ones that actually is guaranteed is
there's about 8, I think. I mean, the intermittent ones are solar and wind.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's enjoyed a huge focus in recent years, because people will challenge this comment, but they're the easiest to get installed. Mm-hmm. But the others are more complicated. I mean, the other renewables are biomass, nuclear, hydro, hydrogen, geothermal and tidal.
Okay, well, you are going down a big list there of things which aren't very likely to happen here, are they?
Well, why wouldn't biomass happen here?
Well, there's talk about that one up in the North of Ireland. There is some talk about that, admittedly, but very small scale, isn't it?
No, not necessarily at all. I mean, don't forget the biomass facility interacts with the farming community and creates a new viability for the farming community. But where I think the debate now should go is, okay, we're moving on with the intermittent renewables, but how do we get to a point where we can balance that off with what's called, I think it's called base load? In other words, you've got the guarantee of power even if the intermittents...
and that's where the interconnector comes in.
No, it doesn't, because if it is that the interconnector connects, bear with me, connects to the UK, which is increasingly going and pursuing intermittent power supply like solar and wind, the UK will increasingly depend upon Europe to fill the baseload, which by definition will be an expensive process. But
they've got interconnectors already. Like France is a big one, isn't it, with all their nuclear, for instance, I think is.
Yes, but let me come back to the first base. The point is that the UK now has very, very expensive electricity, and I would put it to you, it's moving towards an even more expensive electricity if it has to import it.
But they're investing in all this future stuff, right? Isn't that where the cost is coming?
Well, they're not. Well, I've just made the point about nuclear power, which is a non-intermittent, clean energy.
Yeah, but look at how many wind farms are out there. I mean, have you seen the sea around the UK now? Absolutely. It's the biggest wind farm anywhere, isn't it?
Yeah,
in the world, offshore, I think.
There's two. Hornsea 3 and 4 are absolutely huge. The ones that have just been granted under phase round 6, I think it is. No, but you're making my point for me. That's intermittent.
Yeah.
If the wind isn't blowing on the Isle of Man and we had to recover power from the UK, it's not blowing in the UK either. So the UK is getting its power, as things stand, in very broad terms, from Europe. So what we have to say is, hang on a second, let's go with wind farms, etc., but let's make sure that the Isle of Man is securing its own base load power supply.
But when the wind is really windy and the sun is very sunny, we're producing more than we need. We export that down this interconnector and sell it, don't we? Or the potential to sell it, which you wouldn't get if you kept it here in the Isle of Man. You'd go and have to store it, which would be, I don't know, pumping it up a hill into a lake, wouldn't it? That sort of thing to produce.
Do you get the point about we have to pursue baseload power supply?
Yeah. I watched a big video about this the other day about Ireland, and it's fascinating about how because they're in exactly the same situation, but they are looking at putting it in an interconnector to France, because they've got only 2 so far into the UK. That's their interconnectors.
Well, it's
but France, because of the nuclear.
Precisely. So, no, thank you for making the point for me.
I'm not sure if I'm helping you or not, but anyway.
You are.
Okay.
Exactly what you're doing is you're saying, okay, the Irish want to pursue green energy, and so do we all, but they recognise that there's the intermittent nature of it. Therefore, we have to tap into a base load elsewhere. The base load is not UK. It's France, because they've retained their nuclear power stations. In fact, I think they're probably developing, and the one being developed in the UK, I can't remember the name of it now. I forgot the name of it, but the French are developing it anyway. So the point is, here's the question that we need to answer here, and it's this: how do we secure our own baseload electricity on the Isle of Man so that we have calm, steady, and affordable electricity into the long term?
Now, and you think these are the ways to go, or some of these ways to go?
Well,
which is your for the most popular idea?
No, I'm not here to.
We're not doing nuclear, right?
No. But what I'm saying,
you get these mini little nuclear things. Apparently, I mean, next MHK was so much for that, wasn't he? Putting on.
I think if you're asking me to choose a particular one here, I would certainly want the Isle of Man to look very, very seriously for baseload provision to balance off with the wind farms and solar where it happens on the Isle of Man when the sun shines. Bless us. Would be biomass. But for those really interested in where this is all going, I mean, I think, and I hope we've got past that rather infantile, childish, early day reaction about, let's go green and let's banish fossil fuels. And I think we've got past that. We're beginning to realise we need to be a lot more pragmatic and a lot more grown up about this. But if you're really interested in this subject, then I'd suggest to your listeners or viewers that they go on to Google and Google Energy Transition Outlook 2024 on the following website, dnv.com. DNV are a really highly respected organisation, and they focus on global quality assurance and risk management, and it's very much part of their role to deep analyse how and where the world is moving over to renewables. Interestingly enough, coming back to the gas issue for a minute, no surprise there. Currently, the world, according to their data, the world energy looks to natural gas for 24% of its supply. By 2050, it will be 22%. I mean, let's also get past this idea that somehow magically we're going to get to net zero by 2050. That ain't going to happen.
Just remember that the other day the government issued a press release reminding people, as from the 1st of 2025, no one can put in a gas boiler anymore. That's gone. So that the domestic side of things will decrease naturally because people can't legally put in new builds. They can't put in
new builds.
Yeah, well,
yes. Well,
it's the beginning of the end, isn't it?
The great danger is if we rush blindfolded into this, let's go green without understanding what we're doing, we get ourselves into the most appalling trouble. And that's why I'm saying now, let's make sure that we have a really serious, deep-seated debate between now and the next election.
Green gas is seen as a transition fuel, isn't it? In most people's logic, it's not completely a fossil. It's transitions, therefore it's sort of allowable to some degree, and will be, as you say, for many years to come, because it is a way of bringing extra power into the grids pretty quickly, I guess.
Yeah, the EU actually describes it as a transition fuel, and the reason for that is it's the cleanest of the fossil fuels, and I think it's this year or next year, according to this report, that gas takes over from oil as the most used fossil fuel.
Right.
So it's a fascinating area, and I do ask people to have a look at this.
Let's have a sideline, because you mentioned Crogga. You are an investor in that. We always make that very clear.
Yeah.
What's the latest? Because you've got extensions on things, and I don't know where we are. It's all going a bit quiet again. Is it? You still going to be able to drill, or I mean, there's so many conspiracy theories going out about this whole thing.
There's been a.
Do you want to clear it up? Here you go.
Yeah, there's a lot of nonsense flying around. I mean,
you're still pally with them. You're not broken up, or
with who?
Oh, I've heard all sorts of things. People always say, "What's going on?" You know how it is. This is the other man.
Well, Chris Thomas doesn't help. We're asking silly questions in Tynwald. He's got some next week. Well, has the government done this and has the government done that? The fact of the matter is that Crogga is the chosen licensee. It knows exactly the sequence of events that it needs to follow. The DOI's own advisors have advised DOI that the Crogga's sequence of events is the correct and appropriate one. What Crogga want to do is to bring the appraisal well forward first, so that it can establish whether or not the gas which...
You want to change the terms of engagement, though, don't you? Basically, you had an arrangement and you want to change it. How's that?
No, I have to bring it up to modern investable standards, appropriate to the international markets, whereas before, early days with Crogga, that wasn't the case. It is now. And once the appraisal well has been drilled, it is either a yes or a no. And if it's a no, then Crogga says, OK, that's it, we've tried, the gas is there, but it won't come out commercially. If the appraisal well is successful, it's one drill, one hole.
And you're paying for that? Crogga, yeah.
Yeah, there's no cost to the taxpayer at all. So there's no cost to the taxpayer finding out whether it's got a multi-billion.
You make it sound so
asset.
Simple. If it's that simple, it would have just happened by now, wouldn't it?
It is actually that simple. It's just got knotted up with quite a lot of nonsense.
No red tape, by any chance?
No rumour and gossip and.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. People, you must get it all the time as well. Anything else you want to add on that? Are you happy to?
All I do is, if I can just repeat it again, because I would like. And hope to see a much more mature debate about how the Isle of Man goes green. Sensibly and in a balanced way between intermittent power and base load power, and how it achieves that cost effectively. And there will be help, and those who are more passionate about how we go green, they will actually get quite a lot out of this report. And I'll repeat it. It's Energy Transition Outlook 2024, and it's on dnv.com. Fascinating piece of work.
Before we finish, do you believe we are going to see an onshore wind farm, or just one turbine even? I mean, do you think it will happen, or do you think it's just going to get bogged down in so much complications?
I think it's more likely as things stand, and this is personal view. Yeah, you've asked me.
Yeah.
It's more likely to happen than the offshore one, because the Ørsted one will rely entirely upon whether or not the UK government will subsidise a wind farm, because wind farms need subsidy, offshore wind farms need subsidies. Whether it will agree to subsidise a wind farm which is not actually in UK waters. It's never done that before. Whether or not a Labour government will be comfortable about subsidising a wind farm in Manx territorial waters is a question that I am not in a position to answer.
Back to what, so onshore though, I mean, everyone seems supportive, but nobody wants it in their backyard. I mean, there's some very well-known people who are supporting it, and they've told me, they said, yes, but not there. That's going to be the problem for everyone, isn't it?
Yes, but my only reservations about the wind farm as things stand is that the front edge blades of the turbines actually give off elements, particulates which you really don't want to have, and you certainly don't want to have them in your water.
Is that absolutely still happening? I mean, I've heard that. You think they've come up with a solution by now to...
Well, the solution exists, and the solution exists on the Isle of Man, but nobody's listening to those people with that solution. Yeah. And that's not for now, but that's the position as I see it.
So in 5 years, 10 years from now, do you think there'll be onshore facilities here?
I hope so, and I hope those onshore facilities are ones which are in themselves inherently green and do not contaminate the air around.
And you've seen the thing for Andrews, I trust you've seen that sort of proposal, which has got the bio, it's got solar, it's got wind farm, it's got quite a mix of potential there.
Well, I would put it to you, that's a very important issue to a project to take very, very seriously, because it moves us towards a position where we're retaining strategic control of our energy supply and therefore its cost, and starting to balance off intermittent green energy with baseload energy. And I'd ask people to grasp that issue. It's not just about intermittent. You must find ways of balancing it off to get smooth delivery. I
mean, potentially, if the MU do their scheme and that big scheme comes up in Andrews, potentially on a good day you may have too much energy, and then you've got to decide what to do with the thing. Besides interconnector, I don't really know what you can do without doing something much bigger, like pumping it up a hill.
If you put those two schemes together, the Andrews one and the proposed wind farm, we're definitely moving in the right direction. In the meantime, and in the intermediary period, and it's going to take some time to roll all this out, I would go back to the first principle that gas is the transition fuel, and we will be foolish beyond measure if we don't at least find out whether we can do it or not.
So do you think it's wrong to have that law in place then to not allow people to put one in a new build as from the first of the next 2025?
It's a little bit like the car issue, they're jumping ahead of themselves, and we shall not do this beyond such and such a point, and then realising, oh, hang on a sec, the market just won't accept that, and it causes all sorts of problems. What I'm trying to perhaps describe clumsily is we need to move away from this early doors move to green energy zealotry, which is what it is. It's ideological zealotry, into the pragmatic, how do we do this, and how do we do it in a cost-effective way? That's where we are now.
Okay. Well, we'll be here probably next year and the year after, maybe hopefully for a long time to come. And I still think it's going to be interesting to see when we actually get a wind turbine on land, because I just don't think there's enough, because somebody will always complain. There's always going to be an issue, and getting past that is going to be very tricky, I think, unless you had compulsory sort of laws to put it in.
Yeah,
we'll see what we think.
Look at it both ways. Not only what happens when we do this, also ask yourself the question, what if we don't? Where are we going? Well, back to my opening remark that in the next 2 years, we really need to discuss this in a much more mature and adult way.
Okay.